And greetings. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of ENP Magazine. Welcome to another of our what we call partner webinars, where we make sure that our marketing partners have a chance to educate, inform, and of course, interact with our audience here at ENP Magazine. As always, we urge you to be in that chat room, ask questions, challenge us, make your own comments. And that's one thing I'd like to ask you to do here in Zoom. For some reason, when you go into a chat room in Zoom, it defaults to host and panelist only. Please drop it down one more and respond to everyone. I'd really urge this audience to be interacting with all of us, yourselves as well as our panelists, which I'd like to welcome. Patrick West, Senior Director of Affiliate Relations at CNN NewsSource. Patrick, you bring a wealth of experience and leadership to the conversation, guiding CNN's extensive network of affiliate partnerships and fostering great relationships across this industry. Patrick, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike, very much. A longtime listener and reader, first-time caller. So it's good to be here.
It's so good to have you. By the way, Patrick and I have gone over, exactly the content to make sure that there's no trip-ups. And the first thing I'm going to do is go off topic with Patrick. Because Patrick, the first question I got to ask you, and I forgot to put it on our list, is what the heck is CNN News Source? I think there's some out there. I mean, I know who you are. Could you just give us the quick, Axios bulleted, elevator pitch of what News Source is and what it provides to our industry?
Absolutely, yeah. So CNN News Source is the affiliate business of CNN. We have 1,000 plus affiliates all across the country, TV stations, radio stations, newspapers. So we bring in content for the network. Anytime you see call letters or video on CNN, News Source brought that in. And we also make that content available to license to local news producers all across the country. So we're the largest video wire service in the country. You could kind of think about us as the AP for video.
Excellent. Now, the reason everybody's gathering here is a brand new, I guess it's brand new technology. Can you give us an overview of what FAST is? I mean, I know what the acronym stands for, Free Ad-Supported Streaming Television. And why has this become such a big game changer for the industry? Why is it crucial for news publishers to even care about it in today's very wacky ecosystem, Patrick?
Sure, absolutely. And let's see if we can get the screen share to work. So you're right, Mike. It's free ad-supported streaming television. It is still brand new, and it's something that's growing by leaps and bounds. So there's a lot of streaming acronyms out there. We'll get into those. But essentially, like you said, it's free and it's monetized with ads. This is a similar model to the broadcast television model that everybody's used to, except now with the fact that it's streaming, everybody can get in on it. So it's not just TV. It's not just for TV anymore. Probably the best way to understand it is this was during COVID, and my daughter, who's now almost 11, was 5 at the time. We went to visit my brother out of town for Thanksgiving, got a hotel room, sat her down in front of the TV. And I said, you've got two choices. You can watch SpongeBob or Paw Patrol. I don't want to watch that. Why can't I pick what I want to watch? And I think that was probably the first time I ever used the phrase when I was your age. This was the way we had to watch TV when I was a kid. So we fast forward to several months later. My wife was an event planner, and she was switching to all remote events, much like this one. And she needed to reserve all the bandwidth in the house for her events. So I was trying to explain bandwidth and the internet to my 5-year-old at the time. And the best way I could think was to hearken back to that moment in the hotel. I said, we can't watch Netflix. We can't watch streaming. We have to watch hotel TV. So that's the viewer experience of FAST, is that hotel TV. You watch what's on. It's a lean back experience. It's very much the way we grew up watching TV. So that's the best way to think about FAST.
All right, streaming services, I mean, I use them. I think cutting the cable cord, we all think of streaming as Hulu, right? Or whatever. Can you break down for us now how FAST is different from other services? Why is it gaining so much traction, especially to our news media execs that are on this on this webinar?
Right. So let's understand kind of where FAST fits in the ecosystem. There's
Okay.
all these this alphabet soup of of how do I say it without saying an acronym, of TV that's connected to the internet, right?
Right.
So you have the very big category of OTT. That's anything that stands for over the top. So it's anything that rides literally over the top of your internet service, over the top of your cable, right? So back in the day when we had Comcast, we had when that was sort of the big way to get cable, or Charter or Time Warner cable, the over watching streaming TV was over the top of your cable subscription. So OTT is the big sort of bucket. You have connected TVs, connected devices, those large screens that sit on top of a mantle or a fireplace. Those are connected TVs. That is what you access OTT through. And then you have various alphabet soup things, some of which aren't even on here, but you've got SVOD, which is subscription video on demand, AVOD, which is ad-supported video on demand. There's even TVOD, which is transactional video on demand. If you go to Amazon Prime and you watch, you pay for a movie, that's transaction video on demand. Fast is not on demand, and that's the big difference. Fast is linear. It gives you that. In a lot of cases, people like it because they're not having to have that that analysis paralysis of spending 45 minutes trying to find something to watch. You just get that content fed to you in a linear lean back experience.
Can I beg you, can we share your slides with the audience after this is over? Because I know there's about 30 people now that have done screen snaps on this one alone, just so they can act at the next, digital conference like they know all the acronyms. But can we, I mean, for those of you that are watching this now, you'll get a link to the recording, and on that landing page, we'll have these slides. Correct, Patrick? Is that okay with you?
Yes, absolutely. I'll share them.
All right, great. So now let's get into the audience. I mean, there's two things that we want to discuss today. Obviously, revenue, but first I want to talk about audience. We're all looking for ways as a news publisher or news executive to diversify our audiences, right? We want to get younger. We want to get different. We want to dive into the communities we serve. How is it expanding, and what are the demos looking like now, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, absolutely. So by way of answering your question, I'll even start by showing the scale of streaming today. And then from this, we'll jump off into the audience. So this is the Nielsen gauge that comes out once a month. This is from February. I want to give you an idea of the magnitude of streaming in the video consumption space today. So you have streaming there at 43.5%. That's 0.1% less than the total consumption of broadcasting cable in the US. So streaming is a massive way that users are consuming content. I know fast on here, the ones that are highlighted in red, those may not seem like a huge chunk, but just even a year or two ago, they were barely squeaking through at 1% combined. So it's growing, and that's a huge, it's hugely popular with audiences. But to answer your question specifically, Mike, it's a very diverse audience. So it's younger and it's diverse. There's even some data out there that suggests despite the fact that fast is, as the name tells us, free, that it is also, the viewer skews affluent. And most fast viewers, I think it's something in the neighborhood of 70+% of fast viewers also subscribe to a subscription service. So that would be like Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Peacock, things like that. So it suggests that they have disposable income as well. But the key part here for me is the diversity and the youth, right? As you might imagine, this is no longer the world where we just turn on the TV and my cable pops up. I've got to be the kind of I now have to go somewhere and get it. I have to have an app or some sort of dongle or some sort of integration in my TV. So that's probably why it skews younger. But that's kind of the profile of the viewer. And then the idea of when they watch. So they're watching, well, when folks watch TV. But they also are putting this on in a lot of cases, depending on the channel, like the radio for background. So they're consuming it while they're doing other things. And so they're not having to make that active choice with the remote. So it's a very, very passive consumption experience.
I want to urge our audience again, if we're not making sense or you need more meat on the bone, boy, Please get into that chat room, but make sure you ask questions to everyone. I got a question here that just went to us, James Wong. James, thank you, but you only asked the question to me and Patrick, so I want to amplify it. And Patrick, I may be Vanna flipping that letter too early for you, maybe getting into this, but he's saying we're in a world now, and I'm paraphrasing, where everybody wants to watch on demand, but if you provide content that no one else does, you can gain an audience, right? I mean, isn't that the trick? You have to stand out with something new that makes people want to just be, what did you call it, passively or leaning back and viewing?
Yeah, so this is that's fine. We can jump there. I think it's a great question. So CNN, as you guys know, is part of Warner Brothers Discovery, or you may know that now. You do. Our thesis on the matter and what we've seen by building our own fast channels is that essentially, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
So there's an audience for this. There's an audience for your content, especially because you have content that nobody else does. And since we're talking as friends here, I'll even jump ahead for a second. The idea of a fast channel, to that question, there are arguably some types of content, like let's say the Bob Ross channel, right? There's nothing about the Bob Ross channel that compels me to watch it now versus waiting till I get home tonight. Arguably, to that point, there are some types of content that would just as easily, maybe even better, be consumed as VOD content. If I was building a fast channel today, the genre that I would want to be in would be one of two genres. It would be either news or
Right.
sports.
Exactly.
And the reason is recency. There's the commercial for a cable company that they say it's only live once. This idea that yes, I could watch it recorded, but it's not new. And it's not to say that as we're getting into the idea of launching your first fast channel, which we'll come to soon, about the tactical steps for how to do that. That's not to say that we need to get super complicated with a live production, even if it's just recency. This idea that it's going to be out of date, so I need to consume it now, is what makes news perfect for fast as opposed to VOD.
We're going to get into how you implement this. I want everyone just to relax for a second because I want to set the table first on the opportunity. So let me flip the letter now to audience and more important, ad potential. I mean, what opportunities are emerging for publishers, and how can news organizations get themselves in the lane so they can be part of all this growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm even going to go just a little bit out of order because I like where this conversation is going, Mike. If you look at the ad spend across video, even just not even 2 years ago, fast itself was a small portion. It was not even half of the broadcast spend. Now you look at fast by itself this year. From in 2 years, the ad spend on fast has doubled, right? And in another 2 years, it will have tripled from where it was just in 2023. So the reasons for this are probably a topic for a whole nother episode, but essentially you've created a world in which you've got uh, all of the benefits of the big screen from television,
Right.
and all of the tracking and data and demographic information from digital. So what's the opportunity, Mike? This is the opportunity.
Whoa,
So
that's a B,
yeah,
right?
just this year, expected $5.7 billion spent on fast alone. And let's be clear, if we harken back to the alphabet soup for a second, this is not including any ad-supported tier of Netflix or Hulu or Prime Video. This is just strictly on the free stuff. And then why somebody asked in the sign up, I noticed early on last week, well, why would an advertiser come to me as a newspaper to buy video impressions? Why wouldn't we leave that to TV? The answer is because you've got the eyeballs. If you have the channel, you have their attention. And I know there's a lot of numbers on here, and so we don't need to go into all of them. The one number that I really want to point out is the one in the bottom right, the one about political campaign spending. So just last year, so from 2022 to 2024, the last election cycle, 50% of the political spend went to fast, or went to streaming, I should say. So politicians who are trying to reach your customers are trying to reach them on streaming.
Exactly. And I just got back from a conference which verified that. And this is, if you're not in this place, I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead. They're going to spend it whether you have a channel or not, right? I mean, that's where the money's going, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that this is an opportunity, and these are impressions that you can't get back once the time goes by. So yes, absolutely, Mike.
Okay, so let's, we're discussing how the audience is gravitating toward this. They're clearly valuing their freedom of channel surfing. They don't want to pay. I mean, am I getting that right? That's why it's free. I mean, I just had this debate on another show on my podcast series, whether I had some top TV executives saying that they don't think there's an opportunity for a paid audience right now with local news. You've got to create this on your own. So what kind of content strategy should publishers be looking for? I'm still up 50,000 feet, right? I mean, where should they be? What news is hot, but what is the content strategy right now?
Yeah. So when we talk about, we'll get to sort of the programming tactical things. I know we keep teeing that up, but when you look at the ecosystem of what kind of content is in fast, it actually, entertainment used to be a smaller portion as the content, the quality of content out there has improved. The amount of producing, the ability to produce a fast channel around entertainment has grown. What this chart shows, though, is the opportunity to get into news, even just on the broadcast side. And I know we're not talking broadcast today, but there's something like 850 news producing TV stations in the country. There are only about 200 or so news fast channels out there. So if we extrapolate that to newspapers, the chasm grows even wider. My point is, there is an opportunity. There are viewers that are not being served today, Mike, to your point, on streaming, that have cut the cord or never had a cord from a cable standpoint, that have very little to no way to access their local news. There's an appetite for this content out there.
You got a question from Michael here, which I think is a good one, because I don't know how advanced this is. Is the ad spend arriving via programmatic? I mean, how are they being, so in other words, if I provide a news channel on FAST, it's going to know my audience. Excuse me, I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, selling news advertising in some way, shape, form, or size, from teaching people what the heck the internet was back in the late 90s to today. But correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, you provide news. You got affluent, educated, you got an alpha consumer that tells 5 other people where to go. So that's why it's an attractive audience for most advertising, correct?
That's
But
right.
is this coming programmatically? So if I'm providing all those cool, demos, I'm going to get the choice ads. Is that the way it works now?
So it works the same way digital advertising works. A
Okay.
lot of it obviously comes from programmatic because of the volume of inventory. But just like on your website, if you sell video advertising or display advertising on your website, you've got a sales team that can sell this as well. So you have direct inventory, you have programmatic inventory, and as we'll cover in a minute, there's also the opportunity for rev shares and inventory splits and things like that from the platforms themselves.
Okay, great questions coming in, but I'm going to hold some of them until we get into that content because I'm not done. I mean, I want to still set the table. You mentioned now a great opportunity, which we as news publishers don't get our fair share, which is political advertising. I mean, right? I mean, and we deserve it. We have the audience. We're always battling for it. And there could be a million theories on why they've always been in that linear broadcast for a long time. So now let's get into this Google and Meta world where they take a lot of our cash right off the table, right? Is this an attractive option for us to suck back some of those dollars as well on the local level? I mean, because we're getting hit so many different ways. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. I mean, look, the one thing, and I don't mean to keep harping on this, but the one thing in news that we have as an advantage that Google and Meta don't is our ability to bring the content to people with immediacy. This idea that it's happening now, and Google and Facebook don't know about it until we as news producers have reported it. This we could, speaking of separate episodes, we could have a whole separate episode on how and why and should they be using scraping news websites. That's a totally different issue. But it doesn't. But having the fast channel in this space allows us to do three things. It allows us to target that local market that we mentioned is at this point from a streaming standpoint underserved in terms of content. And here's what's interesting: this idea of overlap and am I cannibalizing my existing audience? So there was an interview with several local broadcasters that tackled this very topic. And NBC, who is, you think about, hey, am I going to watch NBC on air? Am I going to watch NBC online? Talk about potential for the exact same audience. I think probably we could potentially agree that a reader and a watcher are even more different. But the idea is that NBC found that the overlap is so little, basically like 6 to 16%, depending on the channel and the platform, was overlap in their audience. The cannibalization is so small. You're getting incremental users, incremental eyeballs that you weren't getting access to before. And the other thing is that it, like I said there, it cross-platform packaging. It allows you to build a more robust advertising package for your advertisers.
A lot of people are asking questions that get into the implementation, but I'm not done yet. I want to now do a little bit more of a dive into this. Why, even though a small publisher right now, and we got one already asking, look, I'm a small newspaper, why do I want to jump into this? Reaffirm to us why we're in the right place at the right time. And if I may politicize here, not politicize, but editorialize. One of the things we're seeing now in the local news space is growth. There's an old expression from Warren Buffett. He said, when people are greedy, be fearful. When people are fearful, be greedy. There are new emerging companies that are buying into local publishing now because they know those eyeballs are just so amazing to own. I mean, I know that maybe right now we don't have all the ducks in a row to make the necessary money to be sustainable, but those eyeballs are critical. Am I right? I mean, is this why you're making this? You're asking us at E&P, which has a massive audience of these local publishers, to tell the story of why this is important. Can you just really reaffirm the value of this audience to us, please?
Yeah. So like I said, I mean, we can go back and look at the slides too, and we won't have to because it's recorded, but let's do a little bit of some back of the envelope math.
Yeah.
You guys, if you're frequent readers of Editor and Publisher, you may have seen this math before. You'll be familiar with Guy Tasaka. So
it's
Mike,
it's right off of his article last month on FAST, right?
That's right. So yeah, so I've known Guy for several years. So this is a great way to figure out, just back of the envelope, if I have, here you see it, if I have 730 streaming hours in a 24 in a month for a 24/7 channel, and 24 roughly, depending on how many ad breaks you want to have in an hour. Let's just say you have 24 ad breaks, ad opportunities in an hour. Then you've got 17,000 ad slots times concurrent viewers, or people that are watching at the same time. It's easy to understand how you could get to 3.5 million ad opportunities, and then what you sell it for, and then how sold out you are, even at a $10 programmatic CPM. You can take this math and convert it to your own numbers and kind of how you think your own math might work out. But this isn't play money at the end of the day. This is something that becomes very meaningful very quickly.
I agree. I'm actually remember reading this, and my wife, who's the editor-in-chief, sent me a note saying we should be getting into this space, even at E&P. Then you and I had that discussion, recently, because there's an opportunity there. As long as all right, maybe it's time to get into the execution. Do you agree? Are we there?
Let's get tactical.
Let's get tactical. Let's go. We're halfway through our journey. How do I get started on this? Oh, you got a slide. How do I get started, Patrick? You teed me up very well.
Excellent. Yeah. So there's one more thing to set the stage, just so we're singing from the same hymnal on this one, and we'll get into literally step by step kind of how to think about it. So let's understand who the players are in if I'm going to start a fast channel. So we as news producers are content owners. So in this one, whether it's Paramount or NBC or USA Today or the Miami Herald, we are content owners. There are the fast services, that is essentially where does this content go? That's the hardware manufacturers, the dongles like Roku and things that can live apps that you can download on your smart TV like Local Now, and then there are your sort of media owned, media controlled services like Tubi is owned by Comcast, Zumo is owned by Comcast, Tubi is owned by Fox. So these are the places my content goes. I will probably refer to them generically and all inclusively as platforms. And then you have I've listed them here as Cloud Master Control. It's a fancy way. They're the tech. So is it Amagi? Is it Bit Central? Is it there's lots of others out there. There's Whirl, there's Frequency, there's VestaStream, there's Telestream, which does very inexpensive fast channels for PEG channels. So the tech can run the gamut from thousands of dollars a month to a few $100s a month, depending on how fancy you want to get. So, all right, enough with the teasing. Let's get into really how we do it. Step one, gather your content, and we're going to drill into each one of these. So if you're keeping score at home, we're going to have underneath 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to have some 1, 2, 3, 4s under there, and I promise we'll get done.
Because everybody's asking about, okay, how do I do this? How do I get the content together? Go ahead.
Yep. So this is the roadmap. Figure out what the content is. Then we're going to decide what's the programming strategy. Am I going to have live? Am I going to have all recorded? How many hours a day is going to be new and fresh? Then talk about our ad strategy. This was the question earlier. Is it going to be all programmatic? Am I going to sell locally as well? How am I going to do that? And then where is it going to go? What platform is it going to be on? So we're going to drill into each one of these and talk about them in depth. And Mike, just stop me if we need to clarify or.
This is the meat on the bone now. I want you to take your time because there's a lot of people confused thinking that it's not for me. I'm too small. I have limited resources. That's what we hear all the time. I got enough stuff to sell. Thank you. I mean, right. I'm still trying to figure out how to sell my programmatic inventory, but go ahead. Let's do it.
Yeah. So that's a great point too. And that's not the limited time is actually a very interesting point. And it actually speaks, it is a nice dovetail off of this content strategy. And as we're diving into content, I will just say, unrelated to this webinar, I had a conversation yesterday with the guy who runs the CNN International Fast Channel. And they essentially run it with no people. They've set up several automation rules so that anytime a show has something that they think is unique to their show, anytime, let's put it in newspaper terms, anytime a reporter shoots a video that's unique, for us, it gets tagged and it goes into a bucket of content. Our channel basically pulls in a feed of this new content and just cycles through 2 to 4 minute clips all day long.
The same clips are just going over and over and over.
It's a little more complicated than that. It favors recency and trying to be intelligent about how it fits content into an hour-long block. So look, there's no question these guys are smart at what they do. So they've finessed it in a very sleek and bespoke way. But the point is, it's not taking highly produced stuff. It's taking 2 to 4 minute clips that were used for something else, and essentially he pointed out it runs with a staff of nobody. So that's when you start thinking about this channel. I don't want us to sort of get bogged down in the idea that we have to necessarily hire somebody or pay somebody that we didn't have on staff before to run this channel. The idea here is let's use what we already have.
So in other words, if I have a reporter, I mean, Maisie's asking a question I really got to address. Maybe we're going too fast. And Maisie, thank you, because there are no dumb questions. This is new. This is very, very new and cutting edge stuff. She's saying, I'm totally lost. You're saying that I have to create my own actual channel, selling advertising on my own network. What you're saying is, if I happen to have a reporter with a phone that covers a piece of a city council meeting, or if I got a couple good clips of high school football, or if I'm just getting the right videos, I mean, this doesn't have to be high production value stuff, right? When I managed a TV station in the mid 90s, I had to send a shooter out with my reporter to do one story a day. We're talking quick, doesn't have to be lengthy edited stuff, Patrick. Am I right here?
You're absolutely right. And here's maybe the dirty little secret about fast channels. And I don't know if Maisie's question was about creating a channel was about the volume of content or about sort of, how do I actually put this into a channel, which we can talk about both. But the average stream duration, the average length of tune, and by the way, I used to work at Amagi, so I know a thing or two about the analytics and actually what it looks like. And by the way, if we get off of this webinar and folks still have questions, I'm happy to make myself available to talk about this, offline as well. The average length of tune is less than 15 minutes. So when you're talking about how much content I need, we have to understand that the average news consumer doesn't consume news the way we consume news, right? If you were to watch CNN all day long, like we do here in Atlanta, in the headquarters here, you would see that we repeat the same things over and over again. Just
Totally.
different faces, but it's the same thing over and over again. On the digital side, right? For newspapers specifically, I heard somebody say the other day that we need to do XYZ like another app does, but that's not the way that consumers think about us. They think about it as, hey, I'm coming in for a nugget. I get my nugget from my trusted news provider and I'm out. That's how they consume news. This is a long-winded way of saying, if you can string together an hour or 2 or 3 of fresh content every day and loop that, you've got a fast channel. You've got more than enough content for the average viewer to come in, feel like they've got something new, and want to come back again the next day.
We still have tons of time, so I'm going to now, if I may, challenge you. Jason is asking, he's challenging you. He's saying my reporter with a phone is not going to cut a minute 30 package. If he could, he'd be getting a job at a local TV station. Address Jason's concern. If you don't, I hope you don't mind this, but address his concern. But
yeah, it's a great question.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
So it doesn't have to just be content that you produce. So think about the other sources of content you have available. Are there live streams, tower cams, weather cams, traffic cams that you can get access to, that you can sync to your channel? Are there county commission meetings?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, they're all being recorded now.
That's right. Those can be streamed live, or you can put them up later. You can also.
How about if I cut a deal with the local chamber that when they do their business after hours, they help me provide me some tape? Do I have to spend hours editing this stuff, or can it be simply done?
Yeah, look, you don't want to make your fast channel just the cutting room floor of content that wasn't good enough for your prime platform. But Mike, as you and I've talked about leading up to this, COVID has taught us that people will tolerate content that's informative even if it's. I'm not in a flash studio right now. Right. We do this now. We're accepting of it. So no, it doesn't have to be highly produced. It doesn't even have to be uniquely produced by your reporter.
I'm actually consulting a media company now who thinks the only way to do a vodcast is to have the guests come into a studio, and they've built this, very expensive room with all the background stuff, but they can't be timely then. Like right now, if a story breaks, I'm happy doing it right like this. And didn't I joke with you, if I was on the Morning Joe one morning, they would have, in the old days, flown me into New York, put me up in a suite, limoed me into the green room 2 hours early. Now they're okay if I'm in my kitchen with a cat walking behind me.
Right.
It's our audience is very tolerable right now and especially the young audience. We have to stop thinking it's so formal, right? So, okay, I hope Jason, I hear your trepidation, but may I respond to Jason? If we're not producing video, no matter the size of your operation, are we out of the game? If we just want to, all I can get my reporters to do is type. It, but aren't there AI tools that can also help now produce
Sure.
some of this video?
Sure. I mean, this isn't an opinion about the about AI and news, but it is there's an entire channel that uses AI and avatars to read the news.
Right.
It's all written. I think they read. I don't know if it's AP or what the source is, but they have. It's not an actual person. They create all of their video is AI generated.
We're looking to explore that, doing a 3-minute wrap of the day here at ENP. All right, let's continue though. I mean, but these are such good questions. I mean, I love being challenged in the chat room. Okay, so here Michael is asking, is my FAST channel a destination for other channels of content, or is it a destination for a single content provider? News, public meetings, local sports. So again, we have to stay on this content slide a little longer, Patrick. I know you want to move on, but help address these questions now if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, that's a pretty sophisticated question, actually. And the answer is it depends. So
Okay, go.
it depends on your strategy. So let's in sort of the the most simple path we could go down. This is a branded channel that's branded to your property, and it's all content that you either produce or licensed. But is there a world in which you could create an outlet that other content owners could put their content on your platform? Of course. And what might the revenue terms be for that? That would be up to you, right? Do you want to do it based on licensing or based on ad impressions or what have you? There's all sorts of ways you
Of
can do that.
course.
Cox Media Group actually does this. They actually have several fast channels, and they also have made themselves a platform that other channels can live on. So now, if I go to access my local news here in Atlanta, I see the CMG properties, but I also see other content, movies, cooking, whatever, from other fast channels. So they have now made themselves what they are essentially is the local hub. They're not just local news, they're the local experts on local in Atlanta. So I'm come to them for everything about Atlanta.
There's a small paper in Orlando, it's a weekly, that did not have the resources to produce their own vodcast series, but they found a local guy that was used to run for mayor. He wants to be a star. Do you see what I'm saying? Who was churning out his own content, but he had a billboard in his basement. Nobody was, seeing these incredible things he was producing on the day's news, or at least his oratory, but he was a fun guy. I connected the two. You see what I'm saying? Put them together. And because you've got the audience and the street cred, you may be able to partner, is what you're saying. Got a good question here from Dana Peck at the Afro. By the way, Dana, so glad you're with us. We love the Afro at ENP. Can you use an RSS feed for a fast channel? The answer is that's where we're exploring here at ENP now. We have a new marketing partner that turns RSS feeds, as you just said, into instant video. And it's not expensive. It's pretty turnkey. Once it learns the way they described to me, it learns your ethos. Does that make sense? And then just produces your daily updates or what have you. So this is not, this is the future. This is where we should be. Correct, Patrick?
Yes. And Mike, if I could even simplify it even more than that, you don't even have to use AI if you want to use an RSS feed. You can, as you're working with these tech providers, many of them allow you to send them a feed of your video. Let's just say you do a weather video or some sort of daily or some frequency of videos. You can instruct the tech to pull from that RSS feed with whatever frequency and logic you give it. So this doesn't even have to be,
Right.
creating content from the RSS feed. You can just have a feed of your video that then is piped into your rundown, at the schedule and time and frequency that you assign to it. So it can be very hands off.
Can I mention another advertiser, if you don't mind, Patrick? They were the webinar before you.
Oh yeah.
And the company called Noda, Josh Brando, was featuring on this very platform with news executives that you can simply put your story URL into his tool and it automatically creates a video using the images you have in the story and just makes it into a reel. Does that, a simple minute and a half reel with a little music if you want behind it or not. And once it learns your ethos, cranks them right out like that. So it's something to explore, and that's automatic. All right,
Well,
we
and
got
that's
to
really
go ahead.
number five. Sorry, Mike, didn't mean to
I was going
interrupt.
to say
That's
we got to
what
keep
number
moving.
five
So
gets.
go ahead.
Sorry, that's really what number five gets to, is the idea that there's content out there that you can license, whether it's Nota or I mean, aren't we all, friends of AP or Reuters or AFP, right? I mean, those folks, they also do great work as well.
Exactly. All right, let's move on now. Keep going. We're at number one, and I want to get you to all of them. Just go ahead.
Yeah. So now let's start thinking about what our strategy is in terms of what are we going to do with that content. So we talked about where we're going to get the content. Now what are we going to do with it? And we've talked a little bit about it just in the conversation up till now, but how are we going to actually structure this content? The thing about FAST is you don't have to think about it in terms of 30-minute blocks the way we think about the programming guide for cable. It's an easy way to think about it visually, to think about the 30-minute block. So let's just talk about it in that sense. But there's no reason you have to hit the top or bottom of an hour. Okay. So how are you going to program that content? Is it going to be an hour of fresh content a day? Is it going to be 2 or 3 hours? And then are you going to have any live content? I know some of you, because I saw it in the signups, I know some of you stream high school football games. That is a fantastic use of a FAST channel to throw it in there. So then as you're going to do that, how are you going to structure your ad breaks? And we don't have to get into the technical portion of how that works today. That will be for the vendor that you end up picking to kind of walk you through that. But there are lots of ways you can schedule ad breaks. You can even schedule ads as content if you want. There's a lot of ways to do it. So the platforms, by the way, we didn't really get into this earlier, but different platforms have different requirements for ads in terms of the volume of ads. Roku famously is the strictest. They only allow 8 minutes of ads per hour. 12 minutes is kind of a typical ad load. There was something in the trades the other day that 9 minutes is average, but I have a feeling that's just because of the volume that's consumed on Roku that skews it towards that lower number. But most platforms allow 10, 12 or more minutes of ads. And so are you going to have what's your brand going to be? Is it going to be the same brand? Is it going to be a different brand? And then are you going to have any kind of graphics that are generated outside of the video? There are all kinds of capabilities from a graphic standpoint. You can have dynamically created crawls and sponsors and L bars and things like that, or you can just keep it simple. So then start to think about, are you going to have live? Is live going to be a component? Is there going to be a need to record the content? Are you going to need to record that and then loop it? These are all things to just get you thinking about what's possible. And then think about, okay, how am I going to set my schedule and how often might that change, right? It's news. So in TV, obviously they break in live. Maybe we're not talking about something quite so complicated here. So we've got a schedule that we can just repeat, but maybe we want to have the ability to change it if news does break and we want to pipe in new content. So what's that flow like?
You have Maisie asking, how do people find these channels? So if you do get your content up, how do they find you?
Yeah, so this is visually, it's probably easier to jump back to this slide here of what the universe is. So there are several ways. The simplest way and the way that you control the most is on your own websites and mobile apps. Those are called in the industry, we call them owned and operated properties. So it's something that you own and operate and have control over. You can actually have that channel live on your website in a player that is
Oh,
streaming
yeah.
24/7. So people can watch it on their computer, people watch it on their phone. That's arguably not technically fast because fast sort of implies that it's on some sort of platform, but it checks all the boxes of everything fast is. If you have a Samsung TV at home, when you turn that on, one of the first things it gives me when I turn on my TV is, hey, don't you want to watch all this cool free content on Samsung Plus? That's a fast platform. LG has their own, Vizio has their own, right? They all have what they're doing is, we'll get into this in a second in the distribution. That content has a place on the electronic programming guide, the EPG. So you can find the content on all those fast platforms that are in the logo soup here.
Wow. All right, let's keep going. So now that we got our, did we cover? Let's go. Oh, ad strategy,
Yeah,
please. This is the key right here.
right. So I will tell you, I am not ad sales, and so many of you probably know a lot more about digital ad sales than I do. But these are things to think about as you're starting to understand kind of how what your approach is going to be. And this was that question from earlier about, is it all programmatic? I mean, let's be real. It's probably going to be a lot of programmatic because the inventory on digital, and this is digital inventory. The inventory on digital is infinite. But the beauty of fast and Guy's math of a $40 CPM for a locally sold fast ad is not pie in the sky.
No,
If you have a
it's
direct
great.
sold campaign, those are the kind of numbers that you can expect. Yeah, programmatic, $10, but hey, I'll take 10 over 0 any day for an
Or
unfilled
yeah,
impression.
because our digital ads can sometimes be left at the decimal point. This is a $10 CPM. That's coming in on demand-driven inventory is a blessing in today's world. Don't you agree? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a high
Absolutely.
CPM.
And this gives you all kinds of opportunities like we talked about earlier, from a multi-platform standpoint, where you might have advertisers who want to create content to go on your channel. That was sort of a
Well,
question.
yeah, that's be perfect. I mean, yeah, why not? And more
Right.
and more,
So
more
who's
and
going to
more,
sell it?
yeah.
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I'm just saying more and more advertisers are jumping into the content themselves and producing their own videos. You see them everywhere now. They all have their own YouTube channels. This could be something that you end up simply amplifying, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. The advertorial type content. And, you don't, to the question earlier, we don't have to rely necessarily, or certainly don't have to rely exclusively on a reporter creating a package. There are all these other ways to get that content. And in this case, have it be content that somebody else paid for.
All right, so you pick your ad strategy.
So
Then,
then this really gets to the question about how do they find it?
right.
And this is distribution. So there are two ways that the revenue works in fast. And I'll explain this, and then the distribution is kind of where we'll land the plane. So if I have distribution of my channel, if it lives in the wild, it's going to live on one of these platforms. The monetization model is one of two things. It's either an inventory share or a rev share. There's no notion in fast of carriage fees like in cable. It is, you do not, as the content owner, you do not have to pay anything for that real estate on the program guide. The way that the economics work is that you either divvy up the inventory between yourself and the platform. So in this case, the platform might sell 40% and you would sell 60%, right? And you keep 100% of what you share, of what you sell. The other option would be a revenue share where the platform sells it all for you and then cuts you a check at the end of the month for your share of the revenue.
And that exists. You can do that.
It exists exactly like this. And the 50 to 60% in favor of the content owner is pretty typical, pretty common. And here's the important thing to understand is that the platform is going to dictate what their revenue model is. So a platform is going to either be an inventory share or a revenue share. Roku, it's a revenue share. Samsung, it's a revenue share. Local Now, it's a revenue share. LG, it's an inventory share.
And
Okay,
they
so
want you to get into this. They want your content, is what you're saying.
they do, and we didn't talk about this, and maybe for time I'll just summarize it for you. But news content, news channels, news fast channels have the lowest churn rate from platforms
They
because
just they
they're
just love
engaging,
it.
they're constantly have fresh content, and it's unique content that doesn't exist anywhere else. My local content as a local news producer is unique to me. I can't go get Atlanta content from a Charleston news provider,
No, because
right?
hyperlocal is in. I mean, that's the key now. John has a radio station, and he says YouTube channel with playlists and local information shows. It's like a local net with three radio public access, TV, and local print. How can he use fast? Boy, that's he's already got his content ready to go, doesn't he?
Yeah, so I did a deal when I was at Amagi with a guy who was basically a YouTube influencer. So you've got your YouTube doesn't make it a direct path to export your content, but there's ways to do it. So you basically have your content ready to go. That just gets imported into essentially a rundown, one of these master control systems, and you get to do all of the stuff we just talked about, figuring out how often the new stuff comes in, figuring out what rotation, all that kind of thing. So you've done the hard part. This becomes now putting that into a linear form.
Well, he's got an MP4 file somewhere that he uploaded to YouTube. So that's all he needs. And this is okay. You got to keep moving, but I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot more questions than answers, and you're going to be able to. People can reach out to you after this, right? And
Please.
ask
Yes.
these questions, and you can spend more time with them in a demo of some form or a Zoom, and analyze their I mean, because this is what you do, right? This is why you're here. Is this?
So I'm not selling any kind of vendor fast, programming technology, but I'm happy to figure out how we help you get there, and if there's any other content that you need, that's obviously my wheelhouse.
Because you'll help them augment the content through the CNN News Source universe.
Correct.
Beautiful. I mean, win, 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 win. Okay, keep going, sir. I'm sorry.
So as we sort of get ready to land the plane here, now we've done all this great work to build this channel into something that somebody would want to watch, but how do we actually get it in front of them? So this is not really a step by step, but this is kind of how I would think about it, as a crawl, walk, run mentality. So how do I forgot who asked it, but how do people find it? Okay. Number one, like I said, I would just go to your O&O property. You have control, you have complete uh, oversight as to what happens there. And also you keep 100% of what you sell on your own platforms. So it's great from a revenue and a control standpoint. Next, there are smaller in terms of eyeballs. Uh, what I've labeled here are sort of tier 2 and tier 3 properties that are very eager to launch fast channels, in particular news fast channels. Local Now, which is owned by Allen Media,
Yep.
they are themselves a fast channel and a fast platform. So if you go to localnow.com, it's going to ask you for your zip code, and they'll give you kind of a news and weather channel for your zip code. They also have a platform of hundreds of local news fast channels. They have said they want to be the largest, have the largest inventory of local news fast channels out there. So they're great to work with. But also things like News On and Haystack are pretty straightforward to deliver your content. And by the way, the fast vendor that you choose to go with will have lots of other advice about how to get on these platforms.
Oh,
Then
go ahead.
then there's the idea of going after the big ones, things like Roku and Samsung. That's where you really start to get the big eyeballs. They're going to kind of want to see a proof of concept in order to basically offer up their limited real estate. And this really gets way down the road, and I at some point I'll probably use this same deck with some broadcasters. So forgive the broadcast reference, but there
There are
is.
broadcasters on this in our
Okay,
audience
good.
now.
Okay, good. So there are now broadcasters who are taking their fast channel and putting it back on broadcast, either as a D2 or replacing syndicated programming, or even just as a little content block in their newscast. So this is kind of how I would think about it, and how you could get that content in front of some eyeballs. So, but like I said, think about, let's not have it be cutting room floor stuff.
Right.
Um, this is a great way to get your brand in front of new eyeballs. And so yeah, so that's really, I know there's a ton of questions and we probably don't have time for all of them, but essentially that's the way to go from step by step and compile it into a channel that people can see.
Okay, bring it up. I mean, we're at the end of our journey. What are the takeaways? And just, I mean, in my humble opinion, if I can say, if you're not going to do this, and if you're going to say this is just too much for me, or I don't want to explore it, there's a very good chance that in the next year there could be a hyper local fast channel in your city. Am I correct, sir?
I am aware of individuals that are trying to do that as we speak across every city, right?
Because the money's there. That there's too much opportunity if you think Guy Tasaka is a smart guy. I mean,
And
which he
yes,
is.
yes, we agree. So yeah, I mean, like I said, here's the recap. The audience is there. They're waiting to consume your content. It's a new audience. You're not cannibalizing your old audience. The money's there to be made. Advertisers love the inventory. And once you get started, I think it's scary to think about getting started, but once you find that partner who can help you get there, they'll help coach you along the way. So
All right, keep going. Bring it home.
so that so that's now you have to just look at my face instead of the pretty pictures
Well,
that we put
how
together.
does someone how does someone get a hold of you? What is the next step? And we're going to provide that link on the landing page and what have you. Do they email you? Is there a page you want to provide a link to?
Sure. Let's bring it back up. So probably make sure I share it the right way. So if you want to reach out to CNN News Source at CNN.com, that's a great way. I'm happy to take any email or phone call as well. You know, we have lots of reps here that handle different territories, and it might be easier to get through that central email address, but my email address is patrick.west@cnn.com. Pretty easy. You can get a hold of me that way too.
Well, with your permission, we'll put that on the landing page next to the recording of this. With your email address, you don't mind because you're going to get a lot of people reaching out to you with questions and what have you. That's good.
Yeah, and what I'm also happy to do is sort of play air traffic control and direct to, hey, if that's your use case, you might want to talk to these people. You know, I know
Right.
there's some other there's some tech providers on the call today, and you know that are friends of the family, so to speak. So I can help say, hey, if that's your use case, you probably want to talk to these people. And having worked for a fast for a company that builds fast channels, I can give you an idea of, hey, if that's all you want to do, you don't need to spend this much. You probably want to talk to these people. So I'm happy to give honest assessments as far as that goes.
I got to ask, I got a couple of minutes here. Why are you doing this? You have not sold me anything.
Yeah,
You have purchased time on E&P to educate my audience. Thank you on this new emerging, and the timing couldn't be better because Guy's story was featured in last month's magazine, where and everybody was flipping out because they had not even heard of what fast was. What's in it for you, sir? Am I allowed to ask, or is that a bad question?
no, it's a great question. When I was at Amagi, we had a large newspaper group that had signed a very expensive deal with us to launch a fast channel, and they didn't launch it because they felt like they didn't have enough video. And so, to the extent that somebody else is in that boat of saying, I would do this, but for the fact that there's no way I'm ever going to have enough video, give me a call. I'd love to help you with that.
So that's CNN's part of this.
That's the news source deal. That's right.
So if you talk to you could you'll steer someone into the world of fast, how to do it, and if should they need some extra content to monetize, CNN News Source has it for them, ready to go.
And it's not, and I should probably highlight that it's not just CNN content. Most of it is local news content from our affiliates all across the country.
Oh, of
So
course.
to the extent that you're looking for content from your area, from your state, from your region, that's what most of our affiliates come to us for, is for that content that's not running on the national news networks. It's the content that's happening in my backyard and in my neighbor's backyard.
I have to ask you an honest question. I know that content will cost some money, but it seems to me there could be a very significant return on investment here. Am I right? I mean,
That's right. That's the idea is, hey, if we can get you some content that can get you some eyeballs, that's That's what we do all day, right? Is we spend money to produce content so that we can sell ads.
Patrick West, Senior Director of Affiliate Relations at CNN News Source. I really want to thank you for opening up our eyes. There's more questions here. You've created more questions because it's so new. It's like, but this technology is just there now, and it's an audience you really want to seize. Once again, what is your email address, Patrick?
It's patrick.west@cnn.com.
There you go. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, CNN, for being a supporter of our mission here at E&P Magazine to educate and help support local journalism. Once again, those that have registered, you're going to get a link to the recording by end of today. And those that are watching the recording, all the information you need is on the landing page. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate
Mike,
your time.
thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.